Anu Pale. Let's talk. It's been a heck of a week in Haiti. We're going to talk about it right here. Let's go. So, I had some other things I was planning to talk about this week, but this week with the manifestations that have been happening, or protests, or civil discord in the country, I had to kind of pause what was on the agenda and make sure I talk about this. Because the point of Anu Pale is to bring the good, the bad, and the ugly right in front of everyone. So folks who are coming in, A, are aware of some of the difficulties, and B, how to handle it, how to deal with it, no matter what sort of business you're trying to work and trying to bring into the country, how to overcome those issues and those concerns. Because again, if you're successful, if I'm successful, ultimately the country will be successful. So we have to talk about the realities of doing business, and then most importantly, okay, how do we then transfer those difficulties into opportunities and successes, right? Manifestations. I don't really want to talk about politics. I didn't come in this country to do politics, so I do want to just give a high-level brief to why folks are in the streets demanding change, right? And so there's been a lot of corruption in the country. Water is wet, right? But it's particularly folks now have something to rally behind, because before the corruption was so perverse and so total, still is, that it's kind of hard to put a finger on it, right? It's an element that's so large, you put a hand on it, you're only touching a very small portion of it. The Petro Caribe issue, where over $3 billion have disappeared, embezzled, and very little show for it in the country, has given folks an opportunity to very easily rally behind something that they can put an entire hand on, right? It's $3 billion. We have nothing to show for it. We want arrests. We want folks to suffer consequences. We want that money back, if at all possible, right? Our president, Jovenel Moise, hasn't done much. There's been 2 investigations, 2 commissions done at the senatorial level. Names have been brought up. Allegations of the amounts have been done, and yet there still have been arrests, still haven't been invested a formal in-court investigation. So that's what folks are rallying behind. That's what's causing a lot of discontent, and ultimately folks are so discontent with not only the Petro Caribe, but a few other things that Jovenel has mishandled, and folks are right or wrong in the streets demanding that he goes. And so that's as far as I'm going to get with the politics of it. And let's talk about the business aspect of it. It's difficult, and it is particularly difficult depending on the type of business that you have in the country. Now, there's 2 types of businesses in this country, in any country really. Those that are domestic facing, right, where your entire clientele is domestic, and that's where you get your revenue, and folks come into your door. Perhaps think about retail, think about perhaps insurance, think about law, right? A lot of those types of businesses, agriculture perhaps, right? Though it's out of the city, but if you're in the city and you're doing a business, you're domestic for the most part. And then there's another type, which is international, the type that actually hope more Haitians can come in and try to think about providing, which is companies that are either based here, their clients are abroad, maybe manufacturing, maybe technology, maybe BPO, maybe outsourcing, something like that, where again, the company's here, but all your clients are abroad. There's 2 types. Let's talk about each type and how to handle it, right? If you're a domestic company, the situation is pretty straightforward, right? You're gonna let's think about it. If your clients are unable to come to your store, and then your vendors are unable to provide you merchandise because they can't get to you because of protests, roads are blocked, etc. There's not much you can't, and your employees can't come because, again, same thing, there's no transportation. Then it's pretty straightforward. You close your store, you close shop. And so there's not much you can do from that perspective if you're a domestic company. You just have to close up and just sort of hope that you don't have to close for too long. You can get back open and back to doing business. For the safety of yourself, your customers, and your employees, I highly recommend that route. And again, when it comes, it's a competitive game, and your competitors most likely are going to have to be closed too. And so, that it makes the case too, if you're a domestic company, to consider parts of the country that aren't necessarily as traditionally hot, right? When I say hot, I mean, protests, where the protests tend to concentrate. And so you want to consider Petroville as nice and as accommodating as it may be for businesses, because the supply chains all flow in and out of that central economic center of ours. It's advisable to consider trying to go somewhere outside of there, where, again, when things get hot, potentially at least you might have a chance of staying open if your employees can get there, right? Depending where your employees are situated, they may not be able to. Your area isn't necessarily as hot with protests. So that's something to consider, something to think about, right? Now, if you're an international company, your clients in the States, your clients in Canada, they don't care. They don't care that you can't run your business because of political instability. They have a need, they have a deadline that they're operating on, and you have to provide that information, that whatever it is that you promised them, exactly when you promised them you would give it to them. And the consequence say, yeah, we can't because the country is just my employees and all the valid things that are occurring to you. That isn't going to fly. So here are some ideas, right, to sort of get around and sort of help the situation. First, get ahead of it before it happens. A lot of times folks don't even think about putting in their contracts, putting in their agreements that, hey, political instability may occur, right? Political unstable events may occur, and provisions are in place to reduce the liability that when you can't provide your service, the recourse that they may impose on you, right? If you just go ahead and execute that clause and say, hey, look on CNN, there's some issues going on, I cannot provide it per our contract, or that is understood, and I'll provide it as soon as I can, right? So that's if you can, to give the sort of relationship you're in, if you can do that, you should do that, right? Secondly, having backup plans, right? Just having as a course of operation, okay, well, if we can't operate, then perhaps we as an outsourced company outsource the work ourselves to someplace else in the world or someplace else in the country that can possibly execute it. Additionally, cross-training, having employees that, okay, one employee can't come because where he resides is particularly hot in a hotbed, then the other employees can potentially pick up the workload, be able to function and be able to do the work, right? Which is generally a good idea, being in cross-training employees, because God forbid somebody gets sick, God forbid someone gets injured or something happens to them. It's always a good idea to have other employees to be able to step in and be able to do the work and keep the business running, right? So in general, it's a good idea, but particularly when things are politically unstable, it becomes even more crucial, right? But again, just as much as one can, just continue thinking, okay, what if this happens, what if that happens, and what can I put in place to help with that situation, i.e., security, i.e., resistant windows, things of that sort to help, again, insulate you from whatever may be going on outside and allowing you to function. Thirdly, financial reserves, right? Having reserves in place to where if you do have to go a week, do have to go a month, right? potentially without being able to operate in full capacity, you are able to still pay your obligations that you have for electricity, from rent, from the entire list of things we as business owners have to provide. Having some reserves is crucial and critical, right? And so if you do have it, if you can't have it, when times are good, put away, right? It's even more important to have that sort of discipline to put away when times are going well. So when things aren't going well, you can weather it, right? And another idea too is if you're international, if possible, perhaps for a period, maybe you can switch to domestic, right? You can switch if you're manufacturing and you're exporting quite a bit of goods, but now at the moment things are rough, and now you're having an inventory sitting in your business, and you can't get it out to where it really needs to go. Perhaps consider selling a portion of it in the streets when things calm down somewhat. Try to sell in the streets, domestically, local stores, local shops that are, because those local shops probably haven't been receiving products themselves. So if you can able to bridge that gap, and instead of sending your trucks and your deliveries out, and instead be able to provide them, have them go to local stores, that might be another option for you to help weather the storm and get through. When it comes to employees, some businesses I know, they hold their end and try to provide their salaries even during rough times. Others ask employees to share the costs, right? So if you couldn't come in during the greve, then they won't get paid, and that's a way to help offset the cost of the business. Because hey, think about it, it's one thing to not get paid one day, but it's another thing to, if the business has to close down because the obligations get so high, right? 1 day or 2 days worth of pay loss versus never having pay again, that's something that employees themselves sort of have to have a perspective of and be able to help that business owner out, right? So, but again, it all depends on what you have. This is why it's so important. It's so important to have financial reserves in place, because it is discouraging as an employee to have less money for things out of your control, right? So again, if you do have financial reserves and you can weather that storm and to continue to pay employees, you should. The reaction, and this is very important, after any crisis in Haiti, it's very important for folks it's very important for folks, I'm going to say it again, it's very important for folks to resist the urge of flooding Haiti's domestic market with crap, right? Now I say crap, say, well-intentioned crap, meaning, donation drives happen, there's, soap and ketchup and peanut butter and a bunch of stuff gets into a box, gets shipped to Haiti. And now, what about the folks there are companies in this country that make peanut butter. There are companies in the country that makes ketchup and soap. And so when you flood the market with free goods, right, even during the crisis, rather than trying to find perhaps, okay, where some of these domestic stores are, and how can we buy from them to help keep them open, keep their employees from losing work and losing jobs, and yet then turn around and provide those goods for free to Haitians in the country that need it. It's a win-win for everybody. Company stays open, it's not competing against free goods, employees stay and keep their jobs, money continues to flow in the economy. So again, think about, for those who are reacting, for those outsiders, more for folks who are very excellent, may I want to do business more in the charity mind, think about sourcing domestically first, especially after a crisis, because that's how you help the country and the economy get back on its feet after a crisis, right? So finally, I just want to say that for folks who are experiencing it, I'm gonna leave you guys with a quote from my very close associate of mine, Stephen Harrison, and he expresses that there's businesses out there that if they can endure, if they can survive, there are these periods of crises, and this is a business owner who's been in business in Haiti for decades, right? And if you can survive that period of instability or crisis, once things get calm again, you will see folks, there is a huge spike of business for those people who are able to endure, right? You have folks, if you're open, folks will come to you because all the other businesses have either shut down, either the owners have been discouraged, left the country, and so you can potentially stand with a lot less competition and a lot more opportunity to make your money back if you can just endure, right? And of course I responded, man, how do you know you're going to endure? And you know, that is really up to you. Some of the tips I provided that you did beforehand, perhaps, to help, and what you can do during. But if you can endure, because one of the biggest things that occurs is you get discouraged, right? And so I suggest that try not to get discouraged. Try to keep thinking, okay, let me get through this, let me push through it, let me keep thinking, what do I need to do to kind of stay focused so I can get through it and get through the gold mine that's at the end of this tunnel, right? And in the majority of cases, if you can get through that point of instability, things will get better. Things will return back to normal, and in fact, you'll see a sort of boost in your sales and boost in revenue as folks really try to make up and try to, you know, catch up for the time they weren't able to purchase that particular product, right? And fill in their inventory, fill in their gaps, right? So there is hope. Don't get discouraged. That's the number one scourge. Don't get discouraged. Stay in it, right? Even those where folks who are looking to come in to invest, and you're seeing the dizzle that may be occurring. The company's still virgin soil for opportunity, entrepreneurial efforts. So stay in it. I still want folks to still consider Haiti despite the difficulties, because they'll come. So don't get discouraged and keep at it. And look forward to seeing you in the next episode of New Pilot.